So before I started at TBFT, I wasn't really doing any exercise, partly because I had a hip dysplasia and I knew that I would need to have surgery, and it had become harder to do exercise. Walking even hurt on my right hip. I was just retiring from work and I decided that I needed to do something about that, and I came to TBFT. So for me, it was my hip. I'd been pretty active and I'd kept up exercise, particularly Pilates, as much as I could. But when I just started to not be able to, roll over in bed properly, get up off the couch, not walk and not run, and I'd run in my early years, that was when I knew that if I didn't do something now, I would completely lose it. And I was 67, so it was getting to that point of you're really losing a lot of muscle mass. So when I thought about coming to TBFT, I saw it on Facebook and I rang Rob and I had a chat and we talked about the commitment and, how you would get the best out of it and the cost. And I must admit, going into retirement, that was a bit of a kind of a thought. Fortunately, I had a very supportive husband who said, no, you just need to be in the best shape you can be to be able to have your hip replacement and for that to go well. I've come to look on it now. This is just the start of my 4th year, coming twice a week, and it has been such a huge investment in my health. I couldn't equate it with anything. I'm so glad that I'm doing this and not paying health insurance. It goes to waste and you never get it back when you need it. My husband and I have got a little gym in our house. It's got an exercise bike and a few weights and a treadmill, and we were doing stuff together, but it was just really hard to be motivated. There could always be something else that you would do to kind of put that off. Coming has meant, it's an investment. It's a 20-minute drive for us. It's means that you have to kind of organise your days around it a little bit. But that's just gotten really easy and we absolutely prioritise doing this, and everyone in our life kind of knows that. So the thing for me that I really notice is that I can go out and spend hours in the garden. My brother died a couple of years ago and he had actually created a back garden for us just before we retired, knowing that I wanted to do gardening in our North Warrandyte kind of wilderness block. And I can go out there now and spend hours and hours and hours and think Chris is looking down on me being able to do this, and that just makes me feel really good, and it's a really lovely thing to be able to enjoy that environment as well. So that's a really big thing. Dog walks, as I said, were getting really painful on my right hip. And subsequently in this 3 years I had my right hip operated on. In fact, I had it operated on 6 months after I started training here, and I did that purposely so that I would be in the best possible kind of state to have that hip replacement, that I would have some muscle tone, in my right leg, etc. And that was really successful, and I had the hip surgery. And then I was back at training in just over 3 weeks and getting back into my routine 2 days a week and picking up from where I left off, and that just has all been an incredibly smooth thing that's happened. So one of my goals when I started, I remember when I came and had my first assessment, was that I'd like to get back on a horse. I haven't got back on a horse yet, mainly because it hasn't just presented itself. But I have no doubt that I could get back on a horse. I know I could put my left foot in the stirrup and throw my right leg over and off I could go. I've got no doubt about that, and I will do it one day when, yep, there it is, it's presenting itself. Since I've had the hip replacement and since I come here and do all of the incredible kind of training and exercises, and I'm able to lift weights that I never imagined I could ever lift, let alone be doing it a couple of months off 70 years of age, I take up it. I do anything. Like in the garden, we've got a big sleeper wall, you know, that's probably about 5 foot off the ground, and I can just jump down that sleeper wall and land quite happily, you know, in a sort of a squat land, and I can push myself back up on it and get back up on the sleeper wall. You know, those are things I would never have done. My balance is just, you know, really, really good. I can step from stone to stone, kind of in the garden, and you know, our place is uphill and down dale, and I've got no trouble getting around. So there's just lifting furniture. We're having a kitchen renovation at the moment. You know, I help wrench lift all sorts of heavy bits of furniture around that I, you know, couldn't have done before and wouldn't have had the confidence to do. So it's really improved my confidence because I kind of believe in my body now. I think doing training, fitness and balance training like this really just increases your overall sense of well-being. So, you know, I have a really busy social life and I guess more importantly community life, involved in the local Rotary Club, you know, taken on all sorts of roles in the community that, you know, I feel like I've got the energy for it, you know, I'm up for being able to do kind of whatever it is. I kind of look around and think, yeah, I want to do that. So that's a really positive thing when I think back about, you know, before I retired and being on the couch and going to get up and I couldn't, you know, move my hip properly and certainly not without stabbing pain. You know, and I was thinking, what's retirement going to be like, to be like this? So I'm just, you know, really incredibly thankful that TBFT presented itself when it did on Facebook, and I followed it up, and 3 years down the track, my life is going just exactly where I want it to be. I think coming to TBFT has been easy because it's such a great environment. So I have been to gyms in the past, and you know, they've got really noisy, crappy music, which, you know, I've never really enjoyed. They're just busy places. People are kind of in their own worlds doing their own thing. I love the outlook here. I love looking out the windows at the greenery, at the trees, at the kindergarten kids running around and laughing and doing what they do. And I love sort of the camaraderie that happens in here. Doesn't mean you're always chatting to people, but you know, when you come along with the same group, you know, maybe once or twice a week, every week for a while, you kind of get to know each other and get to know each other's rhythms and get to know when someone's taken on a more challenging exercise that they haven't done before or that you have. And I do love the trainers. You know, Luke is our main trainer, but we have Emily as well, and they're just both really supportive, really quite different trainers, but different in good ways and different in ways that, you know, bring out the best in you and kind of make you feel, you know, confident and able to ask questions and all that sort of thing. So I'm coming up to my 3-year anniversary. I think it may be around about this week, actually. I think it might be around about this week, something like that. Yay! So interestingly, over the last 3 years, I've had a number of friends and acquaintances who have been preparing for surgery of one sort or another, you know, knee surgery or hip surgery, and I've had the opportunity to really kind of, you know, give them the benefit of my experience in doing what I now know is called prehab. That sort of 6 months that I decided I wanted to kind of, you know, get into training and get myself in my best shape. You know, that 6 months was very, very specifically about, you know, what muscles could be improved and give me the best shot of having a successful hip replacement that didn't take 6 months to get over. So I've talked to a number of friends and acquaintances about doing exactly this, and you know, I know some have done it and some haven't done it, and you know, everyone has their own journey, but I certainly recommend it.